And hello, everybody. I would like to welcome our beautiful guest for our interviews with the Masters, and that is Heather McCutcheon. And she is living in Chicago, so she's had to stay up late to do this interview. Welcome, Heather, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you
So,
so much for having me. Looking forward to our chat.
excellent. So, anybody that has watched any of our interviews, what we want to do is just talk not only about the systems that each person is doing, but to get to know a little bit more about them and how Reiki has served them and grown them. So Heather is amazing. She has been doing Reiki for quite some time, and we'll talk about that soon. But she is also the founder of, she's a massage therapist, Reiki master and teacher, the founder and executive direction of the Reiki Brigade, which is an amazing association, which is really about giving people little samples of Reiki so they have an understanding and they can come to it. And she has offered her and her team have worked with over 7,000 people doing little 10-minute sessions to the Chicago police and firefighters, homeless veterans, incarcerated individuals, violent interrupters, medical students and faculty, corporate wellness event attendees, and more. And the really exciting thing is that this year and in the past too, this year Heather is one of the people who is presenting and introducing people on the Reiki Summit. So the Global Reiki Summit is created by Marriott Reiki Rays, and Heather is one of the co-hosts along with Yolanda Williams. So happy days. We're all excited to hear your journey. And can you tell us a little bit more about yourself, Heather? And I mean who you are as a person, where you grew up, your family, and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, well, so I'm not sure how familiar your primary core listeners are going to be with the Midwest, but I'm from the Midwest here in the United States. So Milwaukee, Minneapolis, Chicago, went to college in Iowa City at the University of Iowa. So all of the cold states in winter, that's where I've spent my lifetime. Um, I, as you mentioned, have been a massage therapist for 25 years now. Started out in advertising, but decided that was a soul-sucking corporate job, and I was not built for that. So through a series of events, broke both my legs playing rugby, ended up getting PT for that, walking into the physical therapy place and seeing people wearing t-shirts and shorts, really helping people and realizing that that was the kind of job that I wanted. Quit my job in advertising and went to massage therapy school to become a massage therapist.
It's a big jump, isn't
And
it?
it was a big jump, and a lot of people were very upset with me for doing that. I used to make a lot of money as a massage therapist. I do not make a lot of money. It was quite a step down financially. And my brother, for one, said, "What are you doing? You're jumping out of a perfectly good airplane." But I felt very called, as if it was the right thing to do. And funny story, I went to the admissions office, with my check for, $12,000, whatever it was, to sign up, had already quit my job, took out a second mortgage on my condo, marched in with my check. And the admissions guy said, "Okay, where do you get your massages?" And I said, "I've never had a massage in my life." And he was like,
Okay.
you can't, I'm not going to take your money. You can't come to the school until you at least know what you're getting into. So he sent me off to get a massage, which is, a low bar to have to cross to get into the school. And it's been fantastic. I've loved every minute of it, and best decision I ever made. And truly, I feel like calling, that you just have
Excellent.
that knowledge without any experience that this is what I meant to do.
Definitely.
So then I came across Reiki at a difficult time in my life, as many people do. I thought the energy healing stuff was ridiculous initially. They tried to teach me that in school, and I scoffed at it, having come from corporate America and still being very kind of corporate minded. When they started talking about energy fields, I was like, "Oh no, I'm not doing that." What I'm going to do is people are going to come to me with sore muscles, and I'm going to squish them, and they're going to feel better. And that's that. There's not going to be any weird hocus pocus.
I get that. I ran fitness centers for 20 years too.
Okay. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yep.
But then I started having experiences where I was feeling what was going on with my clients, their knee pain, their grief, panic attacks, realizing this isn't me, this is this other person. And I kind of worked my way through that, recognizing, well, thinking this is a side effect of working in close proximity with people, that you just have to kind of manage and deal with. And it was still several years after that
Wow.
that I realized, oh, this is a way you can help people. We're made of energy. We're sharing space and time and vibration, and this can be used for positive effect. So I was
Excellent.
very, very slow on the uptake. But as penance, I now am the poster child for, hey, you should learn about Reiki. And people scoff
Excellent.
at me. People scoff at me just as I scoffed. And I'm like, okay, I understand that viewpoint. I was there 15 years ago, and now I'm here
That's
on the other
awesome.
side of it. Yeah.
Excellent. So how long have you been doing Reiki and energy work?
For about 15
15
years.
years. Yep.
It's about 2010, 14 years. Yeah.
And so what led you to start Reiki Brigade? Because that is huge, working with 7,000 people. That's huge.
Yeah, that also I feel like was part of the calling. As I said, I came to the energy work. I finally was able to wrap my brain around it when I was having a very difficult time in my life. And just everything had gone haywire. And two separate people, not even in the context of this is going to be an energy healing session. One's at a yoga studio. The yoga instructor came around afterwards while we're lying in Shavasana and did this. And I was very upset when I came into the class, mind racing, having a hard time keeping my composure, but trying to do something positive.
Yes.
And she did that. And when I left the class, I was floating. Fabulous. Everything is perfect. The world is exactly the way it's supposed to be. Garbage on the sidewalk? Absolutely. That's where that's supposed to be. If someone had come up to me, I wrote this in my book. If someone had come up to me and punched me in the face in that moment, I would have been like, hello. And I would have given him a hug. Like it was this unbelievable shift from this. And I went back after like a couple weeks later when I was good and ready to find out what that was about, if that woman even knew that that had happened.
Yeah.
My guess is she did not know, but I don't know what she studied. She was there teaching yoga.
She studied
And
love
I
by
couldn't
the
find
sound
her.
of it. Yeah.
I couldn't find her. She was
Wow.
gone in the ether. The YMCA couldn't track her down, never didn't know who I was talking about, just gone.
Amazing.
And then another time I had gone to a class to learn to meditate, and a couple people put their hands on me. And same thing, I had a really difficult encounter the evening before. I was upset. My heart was like that heavy, tight chest thing. And these people put their hands on me and I floated home, just kind of euphoric. And I was
Yeah.
like, this is the most, my first thought was, oh my gosh, how did you do that? And my second thought was, if you can do that, can I do that? And if I can do that, can everyone do that? And then why isn't everyone doing that for everyone?
Exactly. Exactly.
Because yeah, what I found when I was having a hard time, as someone who became a massage therapist to help people when they're hurting, one of the most difficult parts of my dark night of the soul was when I was having a very hard time, people came out to kick me while I was down. Instead of coming to help me, people wanted to hurt me.
Yeah.
And I could not wrap my brain around that. How are people that way? What
So
has gone wrong?
you didn't understand about vibrational frequency back then, did you? About how we draw experiences. But again, everything's perfect, isn't it?
Well, yes, ultimately, I didn't understand about trauma and how people are holding on to trauma and how hurt people hurt people.
Definitely.
And I didn't understand the smiling facades around me. I could not see beyond that. I did not see the hurt people that were there.
Yeah.
So I didn't realize who I was surrounded by until I was hurting and I needed help, and I thought these people would help me, and they did not. um, so when I realized, okay, there's a lot of people who are in a lot of pain, much more than I realized prior to this experience. The fact that these people could put their hands on me and within a few minutes I could feel remarkably better.
Yeah.
Um, which for me, I can honestly say was a life-saving shift. This gave me hope. I'm going to get through this. This is not going to be my reality going forward. I am going to get through this.
That's so awesome.
Yeah. And then when I got through it, what I wanted most was to offer that same thing to other people. So neither of those two individuals called that Reiki, but when I was researching, what is this? What is going on?
Yeah.
I came across Reiki, and 15 years ago, it did seem to have some of the better name recognition than other things I came across. So I went with that, thinking I'm going to incorporate this into my massage practice. I'm going to help people, specifically looking for people who are having a very hard time in serving those people. And here we are all this time later, and that is what I do. And so, of course, in retrospect, very grateful for everything that got me here. But it was rough.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, just when we need it the most, people pull back, and then it becomes physician heal thyself, doesn't it? So we've got
Yeah.
to find the tools
Yeah.
that work for us. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so how did that lead then to, how did you start up Reiki Brigade? How did you do that?
Well, I joined up with a group of other people who had just learned Reiki as I had just learned Reiki. And we kind of formed this group, here in Chicago that was meant to get people together to do Reiki shares.
Yeah.
Like, join up in community and offer Reiki so that when you take your class, you have somewhere to go and meet like-minded people.
Yeah.
But as even in the very formative stages of that, I was thinking, I'm going to be the outreach person, because what I want to do is take all these people who have learned Reiki and get out there and help people.
And help all those hurt people.
Yes. And still, it was just me for the first few events. It was me out there giving Reiki at a city college to college students, or, wherever, anywhere anyone would let me go. It took a while. I had to work my way up to the Chicago Police Department and the fire department and the VA hospitals.
I'm
Those
surprised
were
they
not
let
my
you
first.
in. That's
Those
the
were not my
thing.
first stops. Right. It took some time. And I do these podcasts, and I say this was really challenging. I think maybe if you live in a small town and your brother-in-law is the deputy chief of police, this could be a lot easier for you. But that's not the case in the city of Chicago. We have like 15,000 police officers here, and it is a big machine and a brotherhood and a fraternity, and they don't want outside help.
I bet they
So
don't.
it's been tough. Yeah. But now they welcome us with open arms, and when are you coming back?
That's
So
awesome.
now it's great.
It's
Yeah,
a shift, isn't it? It's a real shift.
it is.
Yeah,
It is.
I started doing Reiki in 1998, and when I started, people in the town thought I was a witch.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
yeah, that mentality. And it took quite some time. Even a woman wrote an article into the papers and said I was doing the work of the devil, which I kind of was amused by. And apparently it was co-signed by 5 priests, which really blew me away. And then I kind of wrote a 6-page rebuttal saying that Jesus wrote, all of you can do what I do in more. And then I thought, wait a minute.
Exactly.
And then I thought, wait a minute, this is not my issue. This is theirs. I rang and found out
Exactly.
the name of the lady, and then they told me about the other priests, and they didn't give me her phone number, but I rang everybody in the phone book with that last name. And I got into her husband. And I said, look, your wife has put this article, half a page, dear editor, in the newspapers about me, and she doesn't even know me. So she couldn't possibly
Or
think
what I do,
no, she couldn't
apparently.
possibly think Reiki's bad, because all I do is help people. And I thought she might like to pop around for a cup of tea and we could talk about it. Then she can make a valid judgment. He said, oh, well, she'll ring you when she gets home. And she never did. And I just went, bless and dismiss. That was it. And
Yeah.
never heard any more about it. So it
Yeah.
is about finding a path, isn't it? And then going, I'm not going to let anybody take me off this path. And so you've ended
Well,
up.
it's funny you mentioned that, because when we started our little community with Reiki shares, and we were new, we had all learned Reiki in the last year and a half
Yeah,
back when we did that. And we wanted to have some guest speakers and, some mentors, and we went and found some women who had been doing it for 20 years. And
that's awesome. Yeah,
social media was just kind of coming out, and
yeah,
we made some social media channels, and wanted to kind of take pictures and document, and be out loud about what we were doing.
yep, yep,
And these women said, do not take my picture, do not put my name, because they had had that experience.
yeah.
And when I think about that, and I think about what we have now, speaking of the summit, where there's this
Ooh,
global community of people, and there are podcasts available, and there's so much support, that
it's
nobody is
so true.
cornered in their little town, like with their one single voice up against a group of people who saying you're a witch. No, you
Oh,
have all this support. And
yeah,
one of the things I love about the summit is that people can connect, like follow these people on social media, get into these conversations
exactly,
publicly. Your audience can see you having a conversation, but it's not just you, it's you and 300 other people,
exactly.
you
Yeah,
know, and that way it's amplified, and there's support, and it's a crowd of people. So your neighbors might, if it's just you standing there, they would have that conversation with you and say, I don't believe that, you're crazy. But when it's you and 300 other people, your neighbor might think, well, maybe I'm wrong.
maybe there's something in that. I mean, I've got over
Yeah.
1,000 students now after all these years, and Reiki used to be, what is that? But now it's, oh, Reiki, and everybody, it's
Yes.
almost commonplace now, which is like massage now. They see it similar thing, and they don't question it like they used to, and they don't usually think that I'm doing the work of the devil. And if they do, I pretty quickly talk about energy and quantum physics and bring it back to scientific base for that type of mind, which you probably do the same thing. Because
That's
we've got to
exactly what I do.
talk their language first so that they can get to know us and trust us, and then we can pull them across that line to give them more,
Yep,
So you
exactly. But I
mentioned,
also use your quote from Jesus, these miracles and more will you do because I go to my Father. I'm not a religious person, but I know that one.
I'll
So,
bet you do. Yeah, because and it's so true, isn't it? It is so true.
yes.
And I have
Yep.
this feeling that if one person can do something, everybody can do it. That's my belief. And that was how I cured that bone cancer that I started to mention. I remember reading so many books, Florence Scovel and all those early people in the mind stuff, and how to think differently. And once I realized if one person could do something, we can all do it. And it's just about giving people the confidence and the knowledge and the ability to realize that we are all born healers.
The
And
permission, really.
permission. That's so true. So
Yeah.
true. Yeah. And so you mentioned the summit, and you
Yes,
are a co-host. So
I
would you
am.
like to tell us a little bit about this global Reiki summit that has tens of thousands of people on board watching these interviews? And
Interviews, sessions. Yeah.
yeah, and I think there's how many speakers this year? Is it 35 or 36 or something like
35. 35
35?
speakers. Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
So
And not just speakers, but Reiki visionaries. These are experts from around the globe. And as I've been kind of commenting, there are some who English is not their first language, like the Reiki Rays, Maria from Reiki Rays, who invites the speakers to come and participate in this, really casts a wide a wide net. If you have something interesting, new, novel to contribute, an idea, a perspective, a project that you're working on, work that you do, a technique that she wants to hear from you. And we work with people who, we talk a little bit slower. Sometimes we have to edit a little bit if there's a little bit of a language discrepancy, but we want those people to be included. And I
and
really
heard.
love that about it. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
I mean,
It's a
that's the
lot of
beauty.
diverse voices.
Yeah, it's the beauty of the internet these days, because the world is becoming one world again, one global community, and language is just a small barrier that we can move through and overcome, isn't it, really, to share.
That's right.
Even when we hear of people like Hiroshi Doi coming out from Japan in those early years and starting to share some of the Japanese techniques, and then some of the other people like the Jikiden Reiki with Java, and Komiya Reiki Do with Hyakuten Inamoto, all of those Eastern styles now sort of mixing. And then we kind of look at the connection where even with things like Qigong, where their foundation movements that are we've only got one body, but we're all doing similar things with this one body. And it's just wonderful to hear there's different perspectives from other people, and you go, oh, I do that. Oh, I already know that. And it just rekindles your joy and your passion again, doesn't it? So that's part of this global summit, isn't it?
Yeah, well, that's the thing, is that, so many perspectives coming in. I started with the summit. It's been, I think, 6 years ago. They invited me to be a speaker to talk about the Reiki Brigade. And then they invited me back the next year, and they invited me back the next year. And
Perfect.
that was lovely. And then they asked me to be a co-host. So I co-hosted last year with Yolanda and invited back to do that again this year. But when I was a speaker, as a speaker, you get free access. You get the lifetime access to the all of the sessions.
Wonderful.
So I scrolled through, and I've been teaching Reiki for 10 years at that point, and so I scrolled through, and there's some names I recognized, and there were some topics that interested me, and I watched a smattering of the sessions here and there, and that was lovely. As a co-host, now I'm interviewing people, some of whom I've never heard. Maria finds them and she says, you're going to talk to this person. This is what they do. Ask a lot of questions, find out about that. And so I don't want to say forced, because it's a wonderful process and I'm very honored to do it, but I'm getting a lot more exposure than I did when I was just going through and cherry picking out the sessions that I wanted to watch. And I will tell you, I've learned so much from people that I would not have watched, based on, I've never heard that name before, and I'm not quite sure what that topic is about. And I'm so grateful to have that opportunity to spend that time. And my practice and my classes have, my game is elevated as a result of exposure to, just all kinds of things. There's a woman, Parita Shah, who's
I'm going to
so
write that down.
Parita Shah, who's so logical and business minded, and she has all these very practical things to do, and she's got worksheets, and she's got steps and processes and checklists, and it's all like so organized and so easy to follow. Like, Reiki is very nebulous, I feel like. And, people can talk about a lot of different things. And she's like, here's what we're going to do. And I'm a pretty organized person.
Me too.
And she's talking, and I was like, oh my gosh. And I've
She's speaking my language.
one of her, yes. So she had her, the thing is, after their talk, they have an offer. And so they may give away a free, like, recorded meditation or a worksheet or a little booklet, or give you a discount off a class or membership to something. And she had a worksheet that she gave away last year when I interviewed her, and I incorporate that into my classes now.
Oh, wow.
And like I said, I've been teaching for a long time. And I was like, this is very helpful for me. Like, you don't know what you don't know. You don't know what you haven't thought of. And so to listen to all of these very brilliant people with all this experience who have gone their own direction with it and come up with stuff, and you can just, this resonates with me. I want this. I'm going to incorporate this. I did not know that. I'm going to do that.
That's awesome, isn't it? Find what works and just take it on board and add it to your little toolbox.
Exactly. And again, I never would have clicked on her interview based on, I don't remember what the title was last year. I interviewed her again this year. She talked about chakras this year. And again, in the middle of the interview, she was talking about something, and I was, taking notes. And I said, I bet you got a worksheet for that. And she said, I absolutely do. And I was like, I would like to have one of those. Yep.
Oh, that's
so
really
fantastic. Good. I interviewed, there's this fabulous woman, Rose Weinberg, has a not-for-profit called Beam On. And what she does is she attunes blankets and she sends them out. People can order them for people that they know who are undergoing cancer treatment.
That's awesome.
So they get this blanket that is attuned to Reiki that they can snuggle in, and she gets fabulous feedback from these people who receive these blankets.
That
And
is so amazing.
this would never had occurred to me ever.
No.
I interviewed Robin Benelli, who does animal Reiki. And, I have my rabbits here. I give them Reiki. They love it. And I think of Reiki with animals as your pets. You're going to give Reiki to your pets. My students give Reiki to their pets. And she was talking about not only techniques and information that's specific to animal Reiki, which is helpful for anyone who loves animals, but then she was talking about giving Reiki at animal shelters and giving Reiki to
Oh,
livestock. And I was like,
oh,
oh my
yeah.
gosh, that's fabulous. Here I'm doing outreach and it never, livestock, that just never crossed my mind. So
Yeah.
anyone who's an animal lover would definitely want to tune in to that. There were definitely some business oriented things. Andrea Kennedy, who's the host of Beyond the
Yeah.
Reiki Gateway podcast,
Yes. Yeah. I know of
talked
Andrea.
about, yeah. So she talked about taking your Reiki business and classes online, teaching classes via Zoom remotely, which is a little bit controversial. Andrea's wonderful. I teach my classes in a hybrid fashion. People can be in the classroom and people can Zoom in both. So she and I had a great discussion about that.
That's
And
good.
then,
That's good.
yeah, Christian Stone of, am I going to remember the name of his business? Standing Stone Healing Therapy, has a book coming out. Are you Reiki business ready? And his
Hmm.
whole talk was about, are you contemplating going into business with you're doing your Reiki. Maybe a lot of people are interested in getting Reiki from you. Are you interested in going into business? And how do you know when you're ready to do that? And what are the steps to do that? And
Hmm.
he has a book coming out and he talked about that. So some really practical,
Perfect.
applicable information, as well as whenever there was an opportunity and someone was talking about a skill set, intuition, mediumship, whatever, I asked if they would do an exercise. So as you're watching their talk, we might just stop for 5 or 10 minutes and do an exercise that you can do right there while you're watching.
Perfect. Perfect.
One of
And
them was Kim Chesney from Intuition Labs did this great visualization exercise, and it's about decision making. So you're going to visualize two different things and ask the question, and then they changed visually. Like, to me, I'm not a very visual person, it was such an obvious feedback loop for me
yeah,
that I think anyone could do in decision making. And I was like, this could
perfect.
benefit everyone tuning
Yeah.
into your intuition and having access to this very simple, do I do this or do I do this? So just, it was so rich. And
Yeah.
again, I've been doing this a long time, and every single person I talked to, there were
Something
fabulous
new.
takeaways.
So what are you talking on in the summit this year?
I was talking about 5 marketing tips for Reiki teachers
Okay.
to attract people to your Reiki classes.
I
Yeah,
think that's good too, because there are lots of people now getting out there and doing it. In the old days, there were lots of, like, I think I've got 87 masters or something, but not many of them are out teaching. They're
right.
mostly doing it for their families and friends, and a few of them are
Yeah,
doing out there sharing it. And I just encourage everybody, get out there and do it. But as you say, not
yeah,
everybody's ready. They've
right,
got to have that
right.
confidence. So that sounds really good too. That might be something that would really help a lot of people. So if you're watching, and as you know, we're with Reiki Australia, will be watching this as well. Hopefully there'll be some masters
Yeah.
out there that are going to jump up and get back into it, sharing
Well,
what we
I
love.
hope so. And for me, hopefully the draw for me, what I'm passionate about for having people, promote their classes effectively and have larger classes is, obviously it's helpful for the teacher. That's your business. You want to, attract people and feel fulfilled and purposeful in that work.
Yeah.
But also, if everyone who's a Reiki master, not everyone, but people who feel called to teach are effectively communicating and promoting their classes, that's an opportunity for everyone who hears about it that would
Yeah.
not hear about it if they were not effectively promoting their classes. So
Exactly.
it's also for the general public. Since I'm about outreach and getting the word out there and letting other people have access to Reiki, again, I feel like it saved my life. If those people were not there helping me, I would not be here. I want as
Exactly.
many people as possible to have this. I think of it as like CPR. It's like emotional CPR.
Exactly.
I've been
Exactly.
trained in CPR for 27
Forever.
years. I have never had to administer CPR to anyone,
I
but
have.
every single day I've never, oh, you have?
Yeah, I'm an old nurse as well, but yes,
Okay. Yeah.
when I
Yeah.
was 15, I pulled an unconscious blue 8-year-old out of the bottom of the swimming pool at the city swimming pool, and carried the child and put him down and did CPR till the ambulance came, and he survived. So that was
Oh
my
my gosh.
first
Thank
time, but I've
goodness you
I've
were
done it a few
there.
times. Yeah, just found
Wow.
what's that body down there? But yeah,
Oh
back
my
in the old
gosh.
days.
Thank goodness. Well, probably your nursing background let you
Well,
have presence of mind in
I
that
wasn't
moment.
nursing then. I was only 15.
Oh,
I
you
was a
weren't.
kid, but that might have been part
Oh,
of the path that led me to nursing. So yeah,
yes. Yes.
yeah,
Wow.
that need
Well,
to heal. Yeah,
yeah. Well, I've never had occasion to give anyone CPR, but on a daily basis, I come across people who are suffering emotionally, psychologically. In our
so true.
society, as I said before, there's a facade that people will show you, but people are hurting.
Oh,
And to have
so much so.
access to something that can help them, I feel like is this life-saving thing for people that are really having a hard time. And
Definitely.
there's so many of us, there's so many people at the summit, speaking at the summit, who are, Reiki masters now, have written books, making a living doing this,
So, what's
to
the name
talk
of your
about
book? What's the name of your book?
connecting the dots
Ah, that's right.
from ad exec to energy practitioner, a memoir and guidebook.
Perfect. Perfect.
Yeah, so it's my
That's
path
awesome.
from Reiki skeptic to now, you
Where
know,
you are.
Reiki, yeah, Reiki
Advocate.
activist.
Yeah, activist.
Yeah.
That probably is the right word, isn't it?
Yeah, one of my volunteers calls me a Reiki activist. And it's
Sounds
every
awesome.
step along the way, every chapter, because as you're learning this stuff, you're like, well, that can't be real. And then it's happening and you research it and you find data to back up, okay, this is happening. All right, but that can't possibly be happening. Mediumship, that's not a thing. But wait a minute, now I seem to be
I just
channeling
know that
someone.
stuff. I just know that
And
stuff. Yeah.
yeah, and now, well, past lives, that's, oh, well, nope, that too. Okay, so like step by step, it's me being incredulous and laughing at myself and then realizing this is a
Perfect.
real thing. Oh my gosh, I can do this too. Holy moly. So, yeah, I understand it's a good read.
Ah, I'm excited. I think I'll be down. Is it downloadable from anywhere, or we just buy the
You
book?
can, there's like a Kindle version of it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
And there's an
and
audiobook also.
perfect. Probably the audio is going to be mine because I can do that at 1 o'clock in the morning while everybody in the house
There
is
you go.
sleeping. Yeah, I do. I know exactly what you're talking about. I remember when I first did Reiki, I've been running fitness centers for 20 years. And my knees were swollen for 3 years. I had chondromalacia patella, which is cracking out of the patellas,
Yep.
iliotibial band syndrome, inflamed fat pads, and patella tendonitis. And I went and did Reiki level 1, and the master said, you need to walk on the beach at Byron Bay for the day, come back on the next 2 days and do your level 2. On the way home, I had a partial kundalini rising, and I got home, put my hands on my knees for 20 minutes and went to bed. And the next morning I got up and the swelling and pain was gone. And I remember going, oh my God, this is not my imagination. And that was the start of the whole journey. But it's that one moment that maybe this is real. And it just,
Yep.
it changed my life. It's probably the same with you. It changes our lives. And then all we want to do
Yeah.
is get that out there, share that,
Yeah.
give other
Yeah.
people the tools to change their own lives too. I love it. It's
Yep.
just amazing.
Exactly.
Excellent. So let me just see what else I've got here. How much work was involved in doing the summit? Because you've had to um, do so much stuff, not just the interviews. There's been a lot of background knowledge and all the rest of it. Isn't that true? Or
We
what else
actually,
was
yeah, we
involved?
start in May. So Yolanda and I and Maria work together, kind of divvying up who's going to interview who. Um, and then we schedule people, and some of them, again, from around the world. So just like this, scheduling, it's, what, 10 o'clock at night for me right now.
And it's 2 o'clock here. I just love it when you emailed me and I said, maybe we could do it next week. And then you went, well, I've got tomorrow available. And I went, the universe cancelled 2 of my clients today so you could be here. See how
Well,
that's
there you go.
amazing? I love it.
There you go.
Yeah.
Um,
Excellent.
yeah, so we schedule the interviews and we, research and kind of decide, what does this person want to talk about, and find out a little bit about that so we can have, an educated conversation with them. And sometimes people are very nervous to talk. They have fabulous information to share, but they maybe haven't done a lot of, broadcast, and they really want to stick to talking points. And some people are just very comfortable and they just go off on a conversation. And then sometimes you're like struggling to keep up with them. Um, but yeah, it's interesting. It's wonderful. But yeah, we started back in May. So it's been, we get the interviews done and then we hand them off to Maria, and she does, the production. It's
Editing.
video and audio now. For the last 2 years, it's been video and
That's
audio.
good.
And she puts together this fabulous, there's the platform and all the bells and whistles of all the offers and, click here and etc. So yeah, she does the bulk. I feel like we do the fun part and she does the hard background work.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a tremendous undertaking and it's a fabulous production. It's very well curated in terms of who's speaking and what the topics are. And,
Yes.
Yeah, it's
So
good
could
stuff.
you tell everyone a little bit about the pricing structure and all the rest of it? Because I know that there's 5 days of free where you can just
Yes.
watch everything if you don't want to sleep.
Right. So yeah, so it's 35 sessions, 35 interviews, and they are from November 8th to November 12th. So it is 5 days, and there are a number of them that are released each day. So 8 or whatever that comes out to each day. So you'll have 24 hours to watch those, and it's free if you watch them during that window. So if you have that kind of time, you can watch them all during that time. If you would like to be more leisurely, or if you have a job and appointments and things
Families.
happening and you can't watch, a very full life, but you want to take advantage of all of that, you can purchase lifetime access, meaning that you can watch it whenever you want, the next week, the next month, 5 years later. You can log on and access those sessions. And if you sign up for that before the summit starts, it's only $57.
That's amazing.
So I think of this as like 35 Reiki classes
yeah.
you could get for free, but you have to be on the ball during that week. Or you could pay the $57 and get all the stuff and be able to log in and have access to it whenever.
I've been getting these since 2018, and I still go back and look at some of those things. And you take so much more the next time round. You just go, I don't think I remember that from last time, but that's now means something different to me. Yeah.
Well, it's funny you say that, because I feel like as I'm evolving, as a Reiki practitioner, as a Reiki teacher, some of that information hits me differently.
Exactly.
And having spent this much time with the summit, there were things that I was, I would kind of bristle a little bit when I heard, like, oh, that's not like what I know. That's different from how I learned it. And now I just have a much more fluid way of receiving, oh, that's what they're doing over there, or that's how some people do it, or maybe I'll even try that.
I think, like you probably think the same. A lot of that is our ego and how we've been conditioned, black or white, right or wrong kind of thing. And then the further down the path and the more you use Reiki, the more you go, we are all one. There are many rivers to the one ocean, and we need to keep an open mind so that we can take on so much more, become better healers and better people, and have a greater influence in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess the way I approach it, and I know that this is a little bit controversial, but I'm going to say it anyway.
You can say anything.
Some people, thank you. Some people feel like this is how you do it. Every day you're doing this, 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 and this. and then you're doing Reiki. And if you're doing anything other than that, you're not doing it. You're not doing it correctly. And that's not how I learned it. And that's not how I do it. And I also think that, usually what's cited is this is how, Macau Usui did it. And therefore we have to do it exactly that way. But the fact is that, Chijiro Hayashi did it differently than Macau
So
Usui did
true.
it.
So true.
Madame Takata did it differently than he did it. So they were doing great. They did great things.
I'm
And
with
what I think
you.
is that when we
You've got
tap
to
in,
evolve
well, we all have our individual path
and
and
our
our
own
own individual way of
personalities.
working with it.
Yeah,
Exactly. And so some people are going to take it and go do animal Reiki in this way. And some people are going to do sound healing. And some people are going to do massage and outreach. And some people are going to do, whatever, mediumship and communicate with
definitely.
angels and whatever. We're not all meant to be cookie cutters
I
of
agree. I agree.
Macau Usui. We're all meant to, and that's why no one's competing with anyone. And that's why there's so much information available, because different things are resonating with different people. And it's
And,
this wonderful tapestry. And
and
it's
I
still all
totally
Reiki.
agree. I mean, as the chair of Reiki Australia, I don't know how I fell into that job. It was just happened. But I know that there's these guidelines and you have to do everything traditional. I don't teach like that. I do, when I teach, I say, this is traditional. This is how I've evolved it. This is the add-on that I found works really well for me. Find what works for you and run with it. Everything that you learn in these classes is like your training wheels. But once you have
Exactly.
that, your job is to embrace it and bring it into who you are and then share that. Because I always think our path on this planet is not about what we do. It's about how we express everything we are through everything that we do. And they're just more tools that can open up perceptions and help more people. That's what it's all about, isn't it, really?
Right, right. And once
Yeah,
you tap in and you're getting direct guidance and
exactly.
intuition, who am I to tell you, no, 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 do it this
Exactly.
way?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, I remember that one of the first Reiki shares I did, I had, we were running fitness centers then, and I just invited every Reiki person I found in the phone book because we didn't have the internet back then. And I remember everybody just found a partner, and some people were starting on the feet, and some were starting on the liver, and some were starting on the head. And I remember going, oh, they're doing it wrong. And then I went, that's my ego. Oh, it doesn't matter because the Reiki goes wherever it needs to go, and whatever works,
Yep.
works. And that was just such a great lesson to just catch myself thinking that. So every time I find myself judging something else as not being what I do, I go, that's my ego, put that away and just open and then go, what can I learn from that? Because that's really what it's all about,
Yep.
isn't it? So what
Yep.
are some of your greatest challenges and your greatest joys that you've learned through this lifetime, through this journey, this Reiki journey, this journey of sharing everything that you do with so many different people in so many different levels?
I would say one of my biggest challenges is that I want everyone to have access to this and to appreciate how wonderful it is, and people don't receive it. Not everybody receives it that way. I
Yeah,
get doors slammed in my face. People hang up on me. People scoff at us. People, that's ridiculous. That's pseudoscience. I had a guy say to me, we were at a medical school giving Reiki to medical students, and there was a
I
line
love it.
of,
I
of
love it.
medical students waiting, and medical students sitting in the chairs getting Reiki and loving it. And some guy came up and said, I can't even believe they let you in here. This is pseudoscience. This is a prestigious medical school. I can't even believe they let you in here. And I guess that's one of my biggest challenges, even though I was that person when Reiki was introduced to me, and I was
Yep.
like, oh, that can't be real. It's hard for me. And I don't think it's hard for me because my feelings are hurt. I don't think it's my ego. I want
Yep.
people to have access to it. And
You
that
want to
attitude,
overflow that love energy is what you're doing, isn't it?
yes. And
Yeah.
especially in people who are in positions, because as I approach these institutions, there's a decision maker, there's a gatekeeper,
Yeah.
and there's a population behind them that I know can benefit tremendously. And sometimes we've even worked with them and they've loved it. And then somebody
And they go,
will
oh,
move to
no, we
another
don't want
job.
anyone to know. Yeah.
Well, someone will move to another job and a new person will come in and the new person will say, that's ridiculous. We're not doing it. We've been doing it for 4 years. Your people, your team, the people whose health and well-being it is your job to support, love this and want it. And if that person decides we're not doing it, I can't get in anymore. That's the
Yeah,
end of that. That I would say is my biggest challenge. It's so
it is a
hard for me
challenge.
not to have access to the people who know what it is and want it, and
Mm.
someone's there saying no.
Yeah.
That's hard.
It's almost criminal, isn't it? Because they're closing a door to someone else's healing.
And they're
Bureaucracies.
literally, when can you come back? You will not see me again. I'm sorry. It's
Terrible.
hard.
I
Yeah.
had a client here earlier on today. Like I work with a lot of, because I've had cancer 3 times, I work with a lot of people with cancers. And I have a lady who has started with ovarian cancer, and her markers when she first started, her cancer markers were up to 700, and now they're down to below 20. And she just said to me today, and she's got the wrong genetics too, but she said to me today, she's got one more chemo to go, and the doctors can't believe she is so well and that all her results are so good. And it's just, she said, I tell everybody about you and they all know you, but I haven't told the doctors. I don't know what to do. I'm going to tell them. I went, about time. And it is that fear of being judged. And often, as like Steve Bierman is a medical, well, he's a doctor and he's also a hypnotherapist. And he says people in a state of anxiety will trust the highest source of power. So if you are getting a bad diagnosis from your doctor, you're going to believe everything they say. And what you need to then say to them is, yes, but you don't know me. So that you can open
Yeah.
that door of possibility. And it really is getting their mind across that pathway. And so I understand when people are afraid to tell their doctor that this is what they've been doing. And that's why the doctors are saying this is a miracle. How can you be so well? And because they don't want to have the doctor then say, no, that can't happen. I mean, I had another one of my friends who had a brain tumor, and she was she couldn't walk. I did one treatment. The next day when I called in, she was talking and she said, the fuzziness has gone out of my head and look, I can move my arms and legs. And she got really well and was actually going out for cups of coffee a couple of times a week with a walking frame, until the doctor said to her, get this nonsense out of your head. You can't
Oh,
win.
no.
You will not survive. Get your things in order. You're going to die. She died a week later. A
Oh,
week later.
no.
So it's just
Not
helping
only
people.
terrible for her, but proving himself right. You
Herself.
know,
There was a female
he's
doctor too.
now
Yeah. Yeah.
emboldened by his own prediction.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, that's terrible.
So it really is. We're not just working with a physical body. We're working with their mind, their energy, their
Yeah.
spirit, and if we can kind of cross that barrier, we open up possibilities. And if we've got possibilities, they're flexible. They're not set in stone, are they? So our journey
Yeah.
is not always easy as a healer.
Well,
So
you asked me to say some challenges and then you
and
asked me to
some
say some
joys.
highlights, and I
Yeah,
didn't, I don't want to leave it with just the challenges.
me either. That's what I was about to just remind you.
Well, I've spoken at the summit. One of the years I talked about the program that I did inside the juvenile detention center, which is the kids'
Awesome.
jail.
Yep.
Yeah, so we went in and gave staff Reiki, and once they thought it was awesome, they let us have access to the kids, and it gave some of the kids Reiki, and then I taught a class inside the
Perfect.
kids'
That's
jail.
awesome.
Yeah. And I did not know what to expect. Obviously, it was a big adventure, and it was one of the more rewarding experiences of my life in that um one of the kids in the class who scowled at me through the whole class. Like I was a little bit nervous. There were security guards in the back of the room,
Oh,
but I felt like this guy not making any eye contact, scowling at me. But then when I did kind of a verbal quiz halfway through on the information, he knew all the answers.
oh,
And at the end, when we did the paired exercise, his partner just slumped over just immediately. And I saw he was so excited. And then after the session, they were chatting and he said, I felt a big all this static cloud above your head. And the other kid said, oh, I just got so relaxed. I couldn't even keep my head up. And they both were so excited. First time I'd seen either of them smile all day.
Perfect,
And
perfect.
it was, it was just this really incredible experience. So
It's
that was a
seeing the
high.
lights come on in somebody's eyes, especially in that sort of situation. You
In
don't
a,
expect it.
exactly.
Yeah.
In that environment. And another, I mean, there's so many. Obviously, every event we go to, each session, we capture feedback from people, and I post that. By the way, anybody who's watching right now has access to this right now. Please follow us on Instagram. I post recaps of these events, and you can see photos and you can see feedback from people, and you can see all these places that we're going to, and hopefully that's inspiring.
We'll post these links underneath this video as well.
Yeah, it's Reiki Brigade, all the, Facebook, Instagram, it's Reiki Brigade. But hopefully that's inspiring to you and you'll get a little boost of endorphins, just seeing all these wonderful experiences people are having. But another thing that pops up is, as I said, we've had trouble getting into some of these larger institutions. There's a lot of violence in Chicago right now. We
I think
have
it's
protests
everywhere.
against the well, yeah, we have a lot of shooting. We have a lot of gang
Oh,
activity, and we
we
have a
don't have
lot
that.
of police officer excessive use of force, people getting shot and killed by police officers who may or may not have been committing crimes. It's a problem.
Wow. Wow.
Um, and it's been difficult getting in there. We also have a very high suicide rate, police officers killing themselves. It's a
Oh,
very hard job, and it's very hard to be a person of color in the city of Chicago with the police department that has historically, integrity has not been spectacular. They are turning things around now. That's great. And we're able to go in and give Reiki, which is great. But it's been very hard to get in there because it's a very closed system. It's very us and them, and
yep.
that sense of you're ridiculous. We know everything. We carry the guns. We don't want that. And last year, someone high up in the administration called me. There had been an incident. There had been a police officer died. Somebody died in the line of duty. And someone high up called me out of the blue and said, can you come? So
Wow.
this is the difference between me banging on doors and begging them to let us come in. And then something bad happens and they're like, where's that woman's card? Where are those Reiki people? That was
Wow.
their thought. How do we help our
That's
people
so
deal with
good.
this? Reiki is the answer. And they called me and said, please come and help with this. And I just felt like it was this huge level up in terms
Shift,
of, yes, them
acknowledgement.
acknowledging that this is beneficial. Our people can use this. We want to, put time and energy towards helping because wellness has not been on the radar at all,
Yeah.
except for the last few years. So we're kind of just right at the right time and place where they're deciding mental health for first responders is very important for themselves
That's
and
so
for the
good.
community that they serve.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we are there. So there's a lot that's really phenomenal, and it feels really purposeful, and there's a lot of highlights. It's good.
Yeah. And working with, well, over 7,000 people means that you're dropping little drops of water in buckets that then spreads out to touch other
Yeah.
lives. And that's really what it's all about, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, when we started doing it everywhere we went, we're offering Reiki and people were like, we have no idea what you're talking about. And now many people have heard of it, people have had it.
Yeah.
And I even have a couple pictures of police officers in uniform doing mudras as they
Oh my
receive the
goodness,
Reiki
that's
because
awesome.
someone has come in and taught them meditation and they've taken yoga classes and mindfulness. And so they're sitting there receiving their Reiki with their mudras. And I was like, oh, it's so good. It's
That
so
is so
good.
good. And so, Heather, what is your message to the world? What would you like to share with people? What would you like to say to all the people out there watching this little interview? What's your message?
Well, I always hope to motivate people to, continue whatever it means for you to continue with your own practice, whether that's your self Reiki, whether it's giving Reiki to your friends, to your pets. having conversations with people about Reiki. And ideally, again, on social media, we would be interacting so that the rest of the world could see what we're talking about and what we're
Exactly.
doing. I mean, it's a perfect, the algorithms are such that the more people that are in on the conversation, the more other people will see the conversation. And you don't have to be out doing it, in your neighborhood. It would be great if you were. You could just be online, joining in conversations and supporting people who are doing it. And
Yeah,
everyone in your circle will see those conversations. And if we're
exactly.
all supporting each other, it'll, I mean, that's what going viral is. And more of these things are, getting traction.
Excellent.
So yeah, I guess that would be my message. Join in the conversation, continue with your practice, support each other, collaborate with each other. And
Well,
again, Summit, great opportunity to connect with phenomenal people, follow them, have conversations with them.
exactly. So I just want to thank you, Heather. It's just been enlightening listening to your perspective, your point of view. And as I said to you earlier, you're in good company. I've interviewed people like Johannes Randall, who is the most gentle, beautiful soul, and Ajava Petter and Fran Steiner, who's also in your summit, and Sally Wayne from Melbourne, and still looking forward to Hyakuten Inamoto. But everybody had a different message, and I think that's the whole thing about the summit too. Everybody has a different perspective on how they look at and use their Reiki and how it serves them. And if we just listen and find one little secret, one little jewel of treasure, we can add that to our own essence and just grow our soul and expand and touch more lives. And I think that's what it's all about. So thank you so
Yep.
much
Yep.
for sharing.
Thank you so much for doing
Parts
this.
of
And
you.
thank you for inviting me. And yeah, I'm honored to be with that list of people. Very honored.
And let me also say to everybody, it was really interesting that Heather has she put an article into the Reiki blog in 2013, which I couldn't find, but I will go and have a little look for that, probably because,
Actually, I'm going to correct you. I didn't put an article in.
oh,
We were over here doing our thing and posting it on social media, and someone in Australia said that looks amazing, and you guys just copied our thing
perfect.
and what they're doing in Chicago, and we were so honored that
That's
across the
awesome.
world people saw what we were doing. So yeah.
So that's the
Yeah, we
power of
crossed
one
paths.
person. The power of
Well,
one
that's what I was
person.
talking about. Put your message out there and people will see it, and that cross-pollination, because that was, what did I say? 2014. We were offering Reiki to veterans, and Reiki Australia saw that posted on probably Twitter or Facebook, and said, look what they're doing, and posted it so all of Reiki Australia could see. Yeah,
Awesome.
we
And
were thrilled to death with that.
now we've gotten to hear more about it. So that's awesome.
And now we're good friends.
Now we're good friends. That's right. And we're all connected.
That's
Perfect.
right.
So
Thank
thank you
you so
so
much.
much. And we will just press the stop button on our recording. And if you want to hang around, I'll have another chat in a moment. Bye, everybody. And thank you for watching. And don't forget, we'll be putting all the links below this for everything. So do make sure that you follow Heather and Reiki Brigade and the Reiki Summit as well. Thank you so much. Namaste to everyone.
Thank you, everyone.